motion? All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. So we look forward to an exciting Auckland over the next few years. Try and hold your excitement for item 13, the disposal of property. I am reliably informed from Carl and Letitia that this will not be contentious, and the proposals have been endorsed by the local boards, and I'm hoping this is the start of an avalanche of these.
If it speeds things up, I'm happy to move it.
Beg your pardon?
I'm happy to move it.
It's moved by Councillor Fletcher and seconded by Councillor Newman, I believe. And please, that's Carl. What happened to Letitia?
Right, Letitia's in the ether. So, ngā mihi o te wā kia koutou e mahi ana o he team leader portfolio review. Ko Kalme Takawingawa, no reira tēnā koutou katoa. So, yep, I'm here to speak to my report, which has already been summarised adequately by the chair. Just to add that the properties are no longer required for their public work purpose. Consultation within council and CCOs has not identified an alternative public work. The relevant local boards have endorsed the recommended disposals for asset recycling, albeit with varying degrees of enthusiasm, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Councillor Philly, you have a question about this?
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for the report. Just curious, for the Papatoetoe property, it's in the Otara Papatoe local board. Did the local board give any feedback on that? And then also, in terms of the funding, the proceeds from the sale, will that go back to the local board or does it go into the general budget bucket?
Okay, two-part question. The local board's feedback was that they endorsed the disposal, but they noted that they thought it ought to be a service property rather than a non-service property for asset recycling. The reason for this was because it had originally been acquired with the purpose of creating a park, but this never happened because there was also a designation on the neighbouring property, and the then Manukau Council declined to use its powers under the Public Works Act to acquire the adjoining property. So the park never happened. The proceeds will in fact go for asset recycling, that is to say they go into the central pot, and that is because it is a non-service property. So even though it was acquired for a service use, that service use never eventuated, and one of the definitions of a non-service property is a property that has not been used for its original service purpose.
Yeah, kia ora, thank you. And just one more question then. So the consultation that's mentioned in the report, does that have to happen, and then what sort of time frame are we looking at? Will it be in the next term, the new term?
No, consultation has already taken place.
Okay, how do we flog these things?
Well, Mr. Chair, that will be up to the transactions team.
I mean, can you speak English? Are we selling? Is the transaction team capable of selling anything, or are they going to go and find a real estate agent who will actually do the work? In which case, why do we have a transaction team?
Kia ora, Mr. Chair, I can speak to that. Letitia Edwards, Head of Property Optimisation, Acquisitions and Disposals in the newly formed Property Department. Apologies, I was a bit delayed getting into the call. My team will certainly be prioritising progressing the sale of these properties. There will be a few things that we need to work through in terms of the building that is encroached in the road reserve for 135 Dominion Road, but we will be commencing work as soon as possible. We always do when we get properties approved for disposal. Sometimes that can involve needing to offer the properties back to the former owners in accordance with obligations that we may have under Section 40 of the Public Works Act before we engage real estate agents, but we always instruct at the earliest possible opportunity to get them on the market.
Okay, now I understand there's a hell of a lot of properties that have been bought under that are floating around. Do you think we could look ahead and perhaps prepare them so that then they get approval before, so they come to us clean rather than claim it another mess? Is that a possibility? Just trying to sort of
yes.
bring it to the realm of real estate.
Yes, yes.
And this
Look,
is
there's a few
understand.
things. There's a few things in that, Mr. Chair, Your Worship. We do actually have legal obligations to offer properties back to the former owners within 12 months of them ceasing to be used for a public work. So we do move very, very quickly for properties which are subject to offer back. Where we've got other obligations that we need to work through, such as revoking the reserve status, we can only commence that work with a governing body resolution. The Department of Conservation, for example, wouldn't accept an application from us until we've had this governing body resolution. So it does depend on what the issues and are that may constrain a property and the steps that we take. But please rest assured that we do move to progress things as soon as possible.
Can we get a blanket approval just to get on as a Department of Conservation?
That may trigger obligations that the council has to former owners, Mr. Mayor, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, if you've got the obligation, why not clear it? I mean, I'm raising this because the land at Mangawhau, which we have sold into our books for a large sum of money, and when we set the contract up to do the CRL, and so we know it's going to be sold, I discovered that we haven't spoken to the Maori. And yet we've had 5 years to do that, and yet the iwi does have a say in there. And so we could, is it possible to look ahead a bit?
Mr. Chair, I haven't personally been working on that project. I can potentially arrange to have a briefing with yourself, with your office, about some of the other projects that we have in our that we have in the pipeline. My colleagues in the Auckland Urban Development Office are progressing the Mangawhau project, so I can't actually speak to the details of that one, sorry. But for what we do have in the Property Department pipeline, I can assure you that we do have a long-term view of the work that needs to be undertaken, and are moving to undertake that work in as timely a manner as we can.
Okay, well, in the future, I think we'll get you and the Urban Office back and explain to everybody what processes we are going through here, so we do understand it. But in my view, if we think we're going to sell something ahead, even if you're not involved, it should be the ethos of your office. If we have to discuss things with iwi, we get on and discuss things with iwi. Iwi are quite commercial, I've found, and they're quite happy to chat back, so please do that. And I have 2 more questions in the meantime from Councillor Lee, followed by Councillor Dutt.
Yes, in regard to 10 Lansdowne Down Avenue, Papatoetoe, it was purchased as a park, and the vision, and no doubt Sir Barry Curtis was across this, was to create a bigger park to enhance the amenity of the area. Unfortunately, that vision wasn't able to be achieved, but we still have half a park, if you like, and yet the single house next door, there are now 6 dwellings where once there was 1 dwelling, and yet we don't seem to have the flexibility, or if you like, generosity of spirit to say, well, there are people living in an intensive lifestyle, 6 dwellings where there was once 1. Why can't we enhance, reward them even, if you will, enhance the amenity of their neighbourhood by keeping that section next door, which is covered in, mainly covered in lawn, as a local park, a pocket park, to enhance the amenity of that intensively developed area. And yet, apparently, it doesn't fit the criteria, conform to the council's open space criteria. Well, if we're going to intensify, as I understand we are, maybe we need to be a little bit more flexible and imaginative about using the land that we actually own, that was bought by visionary people before us, and turn that into a small park and enhance the amenity of those people who are living in 6 dwellings where once there was only 1 dwelling. Why can't we do that?
I would suggest that's beyond the scope of my report. First point. Second point is it's currently a residential dwelling. It is not a park. It has never been used as a park.
Councillor Darby, please.
Just a brief clarification on 135 Dominion. So we acquired that, and then we realigned the road boundary to take front of the building, and now we'll, in our disposal process, we look at how we reface the building or demolish the building, because most of the value is probably on the land there. But I just want to get my head around that.
That is correct. I haven't made a recommendation as to whether the building should be demolished or not, because I think it is better to allow the transactions team room to manoeuvre. But yes, the front of the building encroaches onto what is now legal road. It is going to pass into private ownership, therefore the encroachment cannot be allowed to continue.
Contrary, carried.
Record my vote against the sale of 10 Lansdowne Avenue, Papatoetoe, please.
Please retire. We're going to have a debate about this, please. And who wants to say anything? Councillor Fully.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to make a comment because I know that the local boards often tell us how frustrating they find the whole optimisation process. And I think this is one example of that, where the local board would have enjoyed the proceeds of that sale or benefiting from the sale of, and it's just a fine thing that makes it service or non-service in terms of the definitions applied to that property in Papatoetoe. And I just wanted to raise that in this space because, you know, it's an example of the sorts of frustrations that our local boards have to put up with. We're telling them all the time they need to sell, they need to get revenue, and they find it so difficult to do so because of these, you know, red tape and fine balances and differences in interpretation that we put on things. Kia ora.
Anybody else wish to? All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, carried. Thank you very much. We haven't got much left to go, but I do have a request for an electronic connection for Councillor Fully, who's